Well, hello again, everybody. I never know when the right time to say that is because it takes a while. But welcome back to China and my team mode. A wet practice session, and it was a good chance for me to see is the answer. But none of the sessions that matter have rain, so there's that. We also have a striking new livery and some new team wear. Let's just dive straight into qualifying, shall we? The season's not going to finish itself. The problem with this PlayStation camera is you guys are always down there, and really you should be up here. But the camera was designed to stand on top of the model TV, I think. Ooh. Tell you what, the purple and white, it does look quite striking, really. Okay. I'm going to stick with a balanced setup, I reckon. Who's that going out? One of the Racing Points. I have to say, not the biggest fan of this circuit, but it's definitely going to be kinder to me than the next one. Let's see what we can do. Very late on the power again. Well, provisional pole is changing hands very quickly. A little late on the DRS there, but I don't think it's going to screw us. We might suffer a little bit for the poor power unit. Actually, no, we don't. It's not too bad, really. What's that ahead of us? Is that our teammate?
There's only
It looks
one
like.
lap of fuel remaining.
It is. Oh. Let me close that curtain. Bathe myself in. Right. I'm going to jog time along. I'll wait for the track to rubber in. Did I change my tyres?
If you want to know specific information or make certain changes to the car during a pit stop, you can tell me what you want over the radio. Press and...
Everyone's coming out of the garage very late. I got on the power a bit too early. I hate that corner. A lot of time there as well that I didn't really need to. So really we should be going half a second faster, but we lost 2/10 by taking one of the slow corners really badly. That sunlight is driving me mad. Once I'm in the pits I will do something about it. Well, it seems we're fairly consistent, if nothing else. How did our buddy do? Oh, not good. 21st. With only Latifi behind him. George Russell, though, climbing up, beating Roman Grosjean. Giovinazzi is out. Kevin Magnussen is also out. Exciting. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set a time on the mediums and see if I can't run a reverse strategy. Finish on the faster tyre. I think that could do us a favour, to be honest. It looks like it's going to rain as well. I'm not driving in traffic. It messes up my laps every single time. We're also going to have a power drop in this Grand Prix, because you usually do once you get over 50% wear on the ICE, which is what we're going to have. Alexander Albon on pole. Oh. He was, but Bottas had to come in and ruin it. Yeah, we're not going to be able to get through on mediums. That's not going to happen. It was worth a shot though.
The car settings screen on your multi-function display will allow you to change various settings as you drive. Open the display with the MFD button. You can then navigate up and down to the setting you want to change.
Sorry, all very quiet there, but I was seeing what was going on. Let's crank things up a wee bit. Let's give it another go. Oh, the sky's cleared up. And we're still ahead of Gasly, even though we only did a lap on the mediums. Let's see what we can do. Oh, big gain of time there by taking that corner correctly for once. Not something I'm famous for. And we've just set the fastest Sector 1 of anybody, which shows just how good this car is in the corners.
Good lap here, or we're out of qualifying.
Boom. Boom. I will take that. Again, I'm just going to blast through the session. Let everybody get times on the board, and then I will do a run at the end of the session. Fingers crossed. So we've had a really strong run of Q3 appearances. 10th I'd take, but I think realistically we've got the pace for 7th or 8th. Just going to make sure that it's a clean lap. Still unnerving to me being off the power so long in these corners. I've got to be done, and I have to say, after some doubts on my side, the car does look a lot better in this livery, and the team wear looks a lot better as well. So thank you to everyone who was on stream before helping me out with that. Purple's a very underutilised colour. Still can't get enough of the engine sounds. It's the little details that make the difference. I have to say, I can't really feel the updates to the car, but that's neither here nor there really, because we're not going to put any more updates on the car unless we absolutely have to, because we need to really just push the facilities to the next level and work on durability. I'm going to get a penalty at the next Grand Prix for sure, because I'm going to have to change some components after this race. The wear levels on the power unit in particular are getting a little too high for my liking. I know you can run it up into like the 60s or 70s, but I don't like doing it. And the same with the gearbox. Once you're in a level of wear where you've got a risk of dropping a gear during a race, it becomes very hard to control the car on acceleration, or deceleration for that matter, because it'll skip through second or third gear.
You're now in P7.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin,
yes it is, mate. It's like a homologation sticker from the FIA, so it's confirmed that the stewards have inspected the car and made sure that it's legal. So it's a nice authentic touch. 9th. I thought we could have gone for 8th or 7th, but in the end it wasn't really that close. We were 3/10 off. But we were also in a no man's land again, because we were about 3/10 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So, again, can't really complain. This is, I've added another 5% to the difficulty. It's not quite enough to stop us qualifying in Q3, so I'll up it again between here and Zandvoort. You know, and if we're... Oh, thank you, mate. I'm glad you like it. It's experimental. We got someone to... Oh, hold on.
Let's have your thoughts. It's been a great qualifying session for you. Are you going to carry that momentum into the race?
We have a great strategy, we
You
think.
didn't spend much time practicing. Are you saving your car for the main event?
A nice neutral answer. Yeah, no, thank you. That's because we did a poll for the Failcast F1 podcast about which team we're going to be driving for, and we've been placed at Renault. So we've gone for a Renault colour scheme. That's the first version, but we're going to tweak it and make it look increasingly professional. I'm also moving away from PS4 streaming like this. Going to get a capture card, and that way we can have a more fancy overlay system and we can move things around and so on. I'm excited for it. I'm scared of the technology. Streaming's still weird for me. I barely got my head around YouTube videos, and I was never very good at those. We're almost on an even keel with our teammate in terms of acclaim, which is good. The only problem we have now is initially, the first 2 rounds, Jordan King did quite good, but as I've got more used to the car and the new physics, the gap between teammates is unacceptably large, and I don't know what to do about it. Because really I wanted to spend the first 2 seasons or so bringing up F2 guys to shake up the grid a little bit, but now I'm thinking I should just pick up George Russell and give him a shot in a car that's better than the Williams. The colour at the bottom bar there, that has to be changed still, because it's Toro Rosso blue from last season, and it needs to move to a well-fetching Renault yellow.
Call that a successful qualifying. We should be in with a good chance in the race.
And the team caps have changed colour. They're now purple with white stripes. I like it. I like it a lot better. Okay, I'm just going to dive straight into the race. Weather seems dry throughout. Let's race then. I'm desperate to keep up my clean season so far. No penalties. I got minor damage at the last Grand Prix, but not from hitting anybody. I just took the end plate off on the final corner. It only cost us 5k. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it only cost us 5k. And I do like, because when you asked me before if damage deducts from your budget, I thought, no, probably not. I don't think Codemasters bothered to put that in, but they did. So credit where it's due. I'm going to let Crofty do his talking while I drink an off-brand German beer. Hold on.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before the braking zone of turn 14. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. And it's fantastic to have you with us here today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the rundown into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures...
Those graphics are still bothering me. That's a good question, mate. I would say I prefer 18 out of the 3. 17's a close second. But you might find that 19 suits you really well. It doesn't suit me at all.
He'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Alexander Albon, and Sainz, Norris, Williams, Ricciardo, and Lance Stroll.
I've been bumped 2 places. Oh, Hamilton's got a penalty.
Daniel Kvyat and Raikkonen, Perez, Gasly, Kevin Magnussen.
Who else got a penalty?
Antonio Giovinazzi, Russell, Grosjean, King, and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Well, somehow I've gone from 9th to 8th, not 10th to 8th.
After the points finish last
I thought so too.
aim to keep the
I mean, I think the racing points do look quite good, but I used to when I did sim racing, my first sim racing team back in like 2007 was red, white, and blue, very patriotic. But I found it was quite uninspiring. You couldn't do anything with it. And then I tried ripping off the old Subaru World Rally colours, like a dark blue with a really bright day-glow yellow, and that was cool. I think Aston Martin have to go British Racing Green, and I missed that on the grid. I do think it's a very, very nice colour. But I landed a few years back when I came back to sim racing on like a dark purple and kind of a marbly white. And if you get the ratio between the 2 colours right, I think it looks sensational. And it's a colour that's really underused in racing. Then again, so was pink until recently. Wow, it's a very short stint on the softs. Let's see if I have a good start again. Yes, I do. Wow. See, the exact opposite would happen in F1 2019. I'd have bad starts every single time. Oh wow, what's going on here? Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. But I've got a feeling, actually, Aston Martin will go for the wrong shade of green, because if you look at Aston Martin racing as it is today, that was very naughty. Sorry, I'm flashbacking. I don't normally do that, but a McLaren just decided to pump me round, and I feel it's unjust. See if he does it again. So this is a problem that the AI had last time, because it's not like I'm going to turn into a cloud of vapour that they can just drive through. And it's the first time it's happened so far. I don't mind being overtaken, but or clipped even when a car's trying to overtake me, like there. Like if it comes around the inside now and gets round, that's fine. But it's when they just drive squarely into the back of you, like you're not even there. I'm not happy about that. You know, collisions happen during overtakes. That's totally fine. What I don't think is okay is when the AI just pushes you round. I don't think that's good. But in defence of the new game, that's the first time it's happened, and it happened a lot in 2019. In the Failcast podcast, actually, there was a great example of George Russell trying to murder Simon. I don't know what's going to happen with the BWT branding, because the pink is because, you know, they're one of the, well, as far as sponsors go, they put the most money into the team, so they kind of have the monopoly a little bit on the branding. But I don't know if BWT will stay on, or if it'll be like a more subdued branding. I mean, you'd think they'd want Aston Martin front and centre, because it's quite a prestigious name, and also Stroll owns both.
Okay, we've got plenty of energy.
It's still funny to think that... I'll just go into overtake mode. It's still funny to think that not only did he buy a Formula 1 team for his son to have a seat in Formula 1, but he also went out and bought a luxury car company so his son didn't have to drive a car with a ridiculous name and a nipple for a logo. It's pretty good. I mean, my dad wouldn't do that for me. Because logically, that's the only reason I can think of, because it's not like Aston Martin is a smart investment from a business standpoint. They're in a segment of the market that's in decline. It's a company that's been in and out of financial trouble for decades. It really does seem like he wants his son to be in Formula 1 desperately, but he also wants his son to have a career attached to some big names. And because he couldn't get in anywhere other than Williams, and Williams wasn't a team to be at, then he's sort of gone out and bought Aston Martin just to rebrand the Formula 1 team he's also bought.
You can use it when within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
The only thing I can think of, because I mean, don't get me wrong, Lawrence Stroll is a very, very astute businessman. I mean, you don't get to be as ridiculously wealthy as he is by being stupid. I still think this is a vanity project, as much for him as it is for Lance. But I get the feeling... Yeah, exactly.
Engine is looking a little worn. Power output will be less than optimal.
Called it. But I get the feeling that they'll have to downsize the business perhaps and re-strategize in some way. I don't think building the car they did with Red Bull, the Vulcan, I don't think that was good business, because in the end they couldn't even use it. The rules changed and it's no longer viable for racing, so it turned out to be a complete waste of money. It's not even a useful R&D exercise, really.
Somewhere on the ICE, be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one key strength that the Formula 1 team will have now, is that Aston Martin's a very bankable brand. And certainly I will be after some Aston Martin merchandise. It's the classic British. I mean, what I always thought was, when Martini were sponsoring Williams, they needed to cut a deal to badge the engines as Aston Martins, and then they needed to give Jenson Button one last season in Formula One. The marketing writes itself. Button in an Aston Martin Martini branded Williams. It's just, I can smell the leather already. It's just so unbearably British. Now, I did actually read some news while I was on my break. Because we were talking earlier about the internal announcement at Renault that an engineer there had leaked that he'd been told that they have already got a deal in place with someone, and that it was someone the veterans have worked with before, and we were speculating, like, does that mean Hulkenberg or Alonso? And I was rooting for Hulkenberg, but it turns out it's Alonso. The deal is now confirmed via the BBC. He's coming back on what seems to be a 2-season deal. And I would facepalm right now, but I'm driving. I was wrong, completely wrong, but that happens sometimes. It's not the decision I would have made, but fair dues, Norris, you had my number there. That's exactly the speculation, that he's well, first of all, he's been paid a lot of money. A lot of money. He's been paid a huge amount of money, and he'll probably get branding space on the car for his Kamoa brand like he did at McLaren. The other thing is that he's tied into a 2-season deal because of the new rules, is what's being said. And I guess his hope is that Renault can get it right this time round. And, you know, there's no reason to say that they wouldn't. Their track record historically has been pretty good, but there's still a part of me that sort of cynically thinks he's doing it just for the money, just for the last hurrah. And what annoys me is that if the rumours from pre-season are true, Liberty Media are paying part of his salary, and that makes me really, really angry. And it's not because, you know, I've got a lot of Alonso hate or anything. It's simply because there are teams like Williams or McLaren even that were on the verge of insolvency, and they do nothing. They don't lift a finger to make sure there's enough seats on the grid. But they're quite happy to pay the salary of a retiree because he's a big name. And I think it's because they don't yet trust Leclerc or Bottas to be considered in the same breath as someone like Vettel. And we know Vettel's probably retiring. There is some rumour, as some of you have mentioned here, that there was a rumour tying him to Aston Martin, but I don't see it because Perez is on a really long deal there. Something like 3 or 4 years left to run. And I don't think Big Daddy Stroll is going to kick his own son out of the team he bought so his son could be in Formula 1. So I really don't see where Vettel has to go that he would want to go. And he's already said he doesn't want to be in a midfield car, so it kind of rules out a lot of the options. I mean, Alfa Romeo's not a terrible place to go. If they were still called Sauber, they'd be my favourite team. But that car is a long way from where it needs to be, and if he doesn't really want to be in the midfield or down the back, then it's not really a viable option. No, you're right, Beetlejuice. They're not, and you saw that immediately at the start of the hybrid era, didn't you? When he really struggled with the Red Bull in his last season there, and at Ferrari, the problem was that he and Kimi had sort of different preferences for how the car behaved, and it was hard to find a balance that suited both. I'll be honest though, I did sort of expect to see to see Vettel do quite well at Ferrari, and he's had some highs while he was there, but all in all, it's a partnership that hasn't delivered on its promise, has it, really?
That's P6, P6.
Some late stoppers. Yeah, I was going to say, I've not really had any particular issue with DRS in previous years, because it seemed like it did solve a genuine problem that Patrick Head was always really eloquent about. I saw him talking at the Autosport show a few years ago, and he said the problem was that you're banned from doing wind tunnel work that simulates dirty air, so it's really hard to design a car that works well when following another car. And that's why sometimes you see cars that have pace, but they suddenly become slow when they catch another car, and DRS was a bad answer to that, but it was an answer at least. But what we saw in Austria demonstrates pretty clearly that, well, firstly, Austria has way too many DRS zones. The middle one needs to go, and I'm hoping Martin Brundle holds up to his promise that he's going to protest it to try and get it removed for this weekend's Grand Prix, because it was just overkill. And I think F1 needs to stop chasing the kind of fan that only considers a race to be good if you can count the number of overtakes in double digits. Because I imagine most of us here, if not all of us, would say that we prefer quality overtakes to artificial ones. And, you know, even then, everyone's got their own definition for what a quality overtake is. I quite liked Albon's move on Hamilton, although it ended with him spinning. But there is an argument to be made that, you know, he was on a compound of tyre that was not only fresher but 2 compounds softer, so he had so much pace that it would be impossible for Hamilton to keep him behind, and that may well have been the case. I will say I was very surprised to see Mercedes not choose to pit, and the same with Perez. I think Racing Point got a little greedy there and prioritised track position over smart strategy.
Fuel target is +1. Faster engine modes are available.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that, I think, because I have Carlos Sainz behind me and he's faster. Much, much faster. Not now, he's not, though. The overtake button actually makes a difference, which I like. It wasn't always easy to get the feeling with the old DRS on the 2019 game that changing the mode did very much. I mean, your lap time went down, but you couldn't really feel it in how the car handled. But here, you know, maybe it's just psychology, but it does seem like I can feel the car accelerating better. I think Formula E does a lot right, and I have a horrible feeling that within 10 years I'm not going to be watching F1 anymore and it's going to be all about Formula E. Because they really do a lot right, and I like that it's very hard to predict how any single race is going to go. And also they've got the benefit over Formula 1 from a manufacturer standpoint, as we were talking about on the last stream, that their technology is super road relevant. This is where, you know, for example, NIO have an electric SUV now with a range of 500 kilometers. Like, you're entering the realms there where it actually makes sense to buy an electric car, and that wouldn't have happened if they hadn't have been in Formula E working with McLaren, I believe it is, who provides the batteries. And I reckon that sort of high road relevancy, combined with the fact it's a lot cheaper to participate there than it is in Formula 1, I think that's what's going to ultimately kill Formula 1. And I always say this on stream, but I've been to every Berlin Formula E race since season 1, and every year it just gets more and more impressive, but the ticket prices have stayed crazy low. So you always have a completely sold out event every year, and that means you're shifting a whole lot of merchandise, and the merchandise has got better year on year. So like the whole package is just working, and it needs some refinement, but it's definitely in a healthier place than Formula One is.
We have 5 laps of fuel remaining.
Actually, yes, I'd be interested to hear what you think of that as well, Beetlejuice. Because I know originally they couldn't get that glass screen to work, and it made some drivers feel nauseous. I actually think it looks quite good. And yeah, I mean, I imagine drivers might prefer it to the Halo. Although that said, I've got you so used to the Halo now that I don't even see it. I don't even see it, and the fact also it's proven itself already. Look at him catching me there. I'll have to turn down my engine mode as well, because it's not helping my engine wear situation. And the car's already down on power to begin with.
We're leading our teammate by 22.1 seconds.
We meet again, Alexander Albon. And I think yet again I'm going to have to let you ride off into the sunset. I'm really enjoying this game. The racing is so fun. Do you know, I haven't watched much IndyCar. I went through an IndyCar phase when I was a kid. Well, I say IndyCar, it was when they had the split, so I was watching Kart, I think it was. And I did quite enjoy it, but I suspect it wasn't exactly the golden age of the sport, so maybe I've not seen the best of it. There is obviously some names in IndyCar that I'm familiar with. Maybe I should make the time to go and watch it. Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, I think the road courses would be more interesting to me. I've never got the idea of the oval race as a spectator event. I mean, the only advantage I can see is that if you're actually there, then you can pretty much see the cars all the time, because they're driving around in a stadium, essentially. But I've never got the appeal. That said, I do respect the people who do it, because I know it is difficult and very, very dangerous. Arguably more so than Formula One. In fact, inarguably more so than Formula One. Like if you knacker it on an oval, you're in trouble. You're in real trouble. That's a very good point that I had never considered. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep Sainz behind me. The car's feeling very off now. I think I've overheated my tyres again. Yeah. I'm too heavy on the steering and it's overheated my inside left. And because of how the game works, that slows you down generally, not just in the corners.
We've only got 2 laps of fuel left.
Yeah, I was interested actually that last season there was an interview with Daniel Ricciardo asking him if he'd ever consider doing the Indy 500, and he flat out said no because he's too scared. I respect him for his honesty. Esteban Ocon is out of the race. Poor guy.
You're losing a small amount of time to the car behind. Keep pushing.
No, he's got me. I tried. Now I've just got to keep Ricardo behind me. I tried. We were side by side through 3 corners, but it just wasn't to be. I'll get you next time, Carlos Sainz. I will get you next time. I tend to lean fuel mode as well. It's not going to help. I wonder if I can get the DRS on him low. Might be enough. Yeah, I keep turning the difficulty up, but it's not really making a difference, and I think it's because I overestimated how difficult I'd find adapting to a new version of the game. I'll bump the difficulty again, and I might just end up then with a more difficult second season, or second half of the first season.
This is your final
But that said, it doesn't feel super cheap, because I've been having some very, very fun battles, usually with Albon, Sainz and Ricardo, Norris, and I'm enjoying the racing, and I feel like I'm being pushed. It's just the car is about 10 places ahead of where it should be. And the weird thing is that I'm using default setups, and default setups make you slower. They really do make you slower. So I'm going to have to crank the difficulty up quite a lot, I think. Yeah, I want to go to Le Mans as well. I think it's something that I have to do once.
fuel now. The tank is empty.
I've also set Simon and I the challenge of, within the next 10 years, having a Failcast F1 podcast entry in the 24 hours of Lemons, which there's one in New Zealand and one in America, and it's a 24-hour Le Mans style race but for really crap, scrappy cars, and that's something, as a motorsport fan, I think I have to do. I left him room. It does, doesn't it?
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Oh, I really enjoyed that, and I feel like I earned that 7th place. Hamilton, driver of the day, that's more realistic. But you have to Grosjean won the last one.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Chinese Grand Prix winners today.
Here's a question for you all.
Talk to me, Ants.
What do you reckon? Can Hamilton claw it back now? I mean,
Well, I honestly feel it was down to
if
the
we
driver
only
and
have an
the
8-round
team.
season,
We can talk driver skill all day.
Um,
if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit
it's
that
a big deficit already to try and make up.
that's when you see
I
results
suspect we'll probably have more. He looks like he's on fire. He just had a bit of bad luck, but well, see, normally I'd agree with you, Beetlejuice, but he held under the pressure in a way I didn't think that he would in Austria. That said, the thing for me that I found hilarious in that race was the fact they were obviously racing each other, and the engineers kept saying to them, stay off the curbs, and they just carry on riding the curbs the entire time. I think it would be a feel-good story for Bottas to win it, but I reckon
at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
It's got to be Lewis.
Yeah, but don't you know, Beetlejuice? We're beyond Bottas 3.0 now. We're on Bottas Game of the Year edition. And Mika Hakkinen reckons he's going to win the championship. I'm not sure. I'm scared to call it, to be honest, because I didn't predict Red Bull's technical problems, and I didn't expect Ferrari to be as bad as they are. I mean, I know Leclerc pulled out a stellar run on the harder tyres to put it second, but there's no way that car deserved to be there. Yeah, that's probably a good reason as well. But Hakkinen is Bottas's mentor, apparently, which is because he's a man of few words, Mika Hakkinen, and most of them are sarcastic. So Bottas also got the point for fastest lap. Let's take a look at the standings, shall we? We are 9th in the Drivers' Championship. We are 4 points behind Danny Rick and 2 points clear of Carlos Sainz. Bottas is your current points leader by a long freaking way, actually. But it's all to play for second between Vettel, Verstappen and Hamilton. In the Constructors, McKinley Engineering are a solid 6th, 14 points. So we're well clear of Racing Point and within touching distance of Renault. Yeah, that's also a good question. See, here's what excites me. Verstappen looks on it, and the car looks on it. I don't think it's as fast as the Mercedes, but I think Verstappen's got the capacity to outdrive it to a level that he could be challenging for wins. But it's also a car that looks like it will throw you off. It looks really temperamental in the corners, very prone to spinning. So I was kind of expecting, I didn't expect Verstappen to win in Austria, but I thought it would be a spin that cost him the win rather than a technical problem like he had. But yeah, it's Mercedes to throw away, really, isn't it? Just it depends on which of the drivers can string it together to get it. And I'm hoping Albon gets a podium. I don't see him getting a win. I think his best chance for a win was last weekend, and he didn't get lucky. Here comes the money. What did we do to unlock that? We team goals. Team goals. No damage again. Another clean race. It's don't want to brag or anything, but that's like 4 in a row now, clean races. Although to be fair, this time I had to flashback because Norris rammed me. But you have my word, I will use the flashbacks very sparingly because I think mistakes should definitely have consequences. That car, I like it more and more every time the screen loads in now. It just looks better and better. We have a press interview coming up. I'm guessing that's with Will Buxton, which I'm hoping. We have 1.74 million in the bank. But that's not really enough to do much with. Because everything costs 2.5 million. And I am getting a little bit embarrassed now, given the results we've got, that our aero testing is a guy with what looks like a pressure washer and a household fan. But needs as must. I bought a new simulator, but it doesn't look like it, does it? Can't afford anything for the powertrain, or... Oh, we can afford durability improvements, but it's going to take most of our money. Yeah, I'll leave that then. That means we should actually spend R&D points because we were saving them for improving the factory, but the money's not coming in quick enough. So let's see what we can do here.
I recommend we could go for something like this.
Rear wing outer strakes. Yes, please. And yeah, that's used most of our points. Quick podium pass check. Yeah, not happening. Okay, activities. What can we do? We have 4 days and I intend to use them. So, power development gives us 30 resource points and affects morale on the powertrain. Simulator training boosts second driver experience level. 100 acclaim. Second driver PR is plus 500 acclaim for him and 20k cash. It's not too bad actually. And the sponsor event raises funds, but for someone other than us. Right, I'm definitely going to go for simulator training. Because I need Jordan to start pulling his weight a bit more. And I will do a sponsor event to boost the acclaim of the team. Then we've got the press interview. Then we will do second driver PR filming, I think. And yeah, there we go. Now we've filled everything up. Let's press on, man. Yeah, it is with Will Buxton. Nice. Let's do that then. I love Will Buxton. I do. I can't help it.
Thanks so much for the invitation to your HQ. Let's have a chat about the team performance this season. Let's talk about your new second driver. How are you settling?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question. He's not a good wingman, so I'm not going to say that. He started well, but he's gone backwards. He's not pushing the car, so I'll just say he's loving the new car.
Would it be safe to say that in terms of team orders, your career comes first in your team?
Oh, hell yeah. But I'm not going to admit that. I'm going to Helmut Marko it.
Do you see your relationship with your second driver being long-term, or will you be looking for someone else if you're successful?
If they can develop as fast as the team, then their position is safe. That was the wrong answer.
Will your team be going for the Constructors' Championship this season, or just for points?
We're not going for the title, don't be fucking ridiculous. Still developing as a team, but we're hoping for plenty of points.
Your team's been picking up points fairly consistently. Do you think you'll be able to become a challenge to the top teams in the future?
Do I big up the Chinese sponsor? do I bend the knee to the Chinese? That's how I am, but it will take time to get there. You can't build a championship winning car overnight. Yeah, that's better. Oh, I've pissed off all my departments. I should have bent the knee to the Chinese. That's what I've learned. I should also point out that Jing Shen are the lowest paying title sponsor in the game, and I only picked them because I thought I was going to be so crap that I was going to be punished on the team goals with the other ones. Now, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have picked a much better sponsor.
I think we've got room for some more investment.
We do have room for more investment, but what do you want me to do? I'm saving up for the factory car. I'm going to use the worn out power unit because I hate this track and I don't think we're going to do very well. Let's take a look here. So he's now more experienced and he's got 5 more pace. I'm hoping that helps.
You can spend any extra money that you secured on perks. Each of these perks benefit both you and your current team. They stay with you.
I'm going to buy power mapping because engine wear is becoming a problem. There are no pay drivers, mate. I think that's probably because no driver wanted to be singled out as a pay driver. It's probably politically difficult. But I am looking ahead at who we might bring in. See, my plan was, originally I wanted Giuliano Alesi because I was a big fan of his dad, so it's just a bit of nostalgia. But the car's too good for him. Jordan King's done all right at the start, but he's fallen way off the pace now. His market value has gone up by $500,000 though. You've got Jack Aitken is higher rated, and Nick De Vries is also higher rated. I'm erring towards De Vries, but at the same time I'm kind of thinking the car's so good, just pick up fucking George Russell or Kevin Magnussen, and have a driver who's also getting the car into at least Q2. We can't fire our driver though, so he has a few more races to kind of show what he can, if he can keep up. Other than that, yes, excellent, very, very, very happy. Let's move on then to the Netherlands. Yeah, I mean, the season's totally an experiment, and what I've learned is the game's a little too easy. Right, let's go tackle Zandvoort. I'm really curious to see how a race pans out on this track now. Obviously we won't make any money from merchandise sales here because it's all Max Verstappen fans. Maybe if we painted the car orange after all, it would have been fine. Did you now? Do you know, I really need to get to a Grand Prix. I really, really do. Next year or whenever things get back to normal. And I've been considering Austria because the setting's so beautiful and it's so close by. Or the Hockenheim Ring. I don't know. There's so many that I want to attend. I really want to attend Singapore. I mean, I'll die because I can't handle temperatures over 28 degrees. And it's like 40 degrees there all the time. But I just like the idea of having that whole city backdrop lit up and a night race and all that fun stuff. Yeah, or Suzuka. I have it on good authority that Spa is a good one to go to. I don't know if it's still the case, but at least a few years ago, you could get a ticket that allowed you to basically walk around the entire perimeter of the circuit. And it's a super long walk. But my buddy told me that he had the best race weekend ever because he just spent his time walking in the countryside but alongside the racetrack. So he could always see the action as long as he wasn't behind a grandstand and there's toilets and hot dog stands scattered around. And he didn't have to pay the price for a grandstand ticket. I mean, yeah, like your photos always have the barrier in between you and the track, but you're still watching the race. I always get a grandstand ticket for the Berlin E-Prix, usually at the final corner. First corner. They used to... One year they ran it the other way round. That's why I said... But when you're in the grandstand, yeah, you do miss a lot of the atmosphere of the paddock. Let's see how we're doing qualifying now. We've got a 60% warm power unit. Given how quickly the wear builds up, we may find that we struggle to finish. But I can live with that. And the thing is, I always get the grandstand seats because one year I sat opposite the pits. And it's cool because you could see the pit stops going on, right? But it's not like an F1 pit stop. That's really cool to watch with all the tools going. They would just hop from one car to another. However, the action just blitz past you. Turn 1, at least you occasionally see some overtakes, but I thought that would be the area I was most likely to see a crash, and I haven't seen a crash there ever. And I've watched practice, qualifying, the race. No one's ever crashed for me, and I feel a little bit hard done by. I'm sat there with my camera at the ready, hoping to, for the gram, to get an amazing crash photo. Obviously, no one gets injured in this fantasy, but I was hoping for a big crash, and I never get one. Straight to the flying lap. See if I can actually drive the circuit in this car, because I couldn't drive it in that classic Red Bull. Some of the curbs are a bit brutal. Yeah, of course it will. It'll be a Verstappen Fest 2021, I presume. I also think it'll be a Destruction Derby. I think it's got all the makings of. Do you remember Baku? Was it the year before last? When the cars got really, really fat again, and it was clear that not only did the marshals not really know what they were doing still, but the cars were way too fat to race each other on a street circuit that narrow. I've got a feeling there's going to be a bit of that going on as well. Because like the runoff areas feel pretty huge, but the circuit itself feels too thin. And I don't think they would ever have considered giving this track a Grand Prix if it wasn't for Max Verstappen, because I don't think it makes the grade, personally. I had some added drama to the race last Sunday as well, because I have an F1 TV Pro subscription, and the third year in a row now it's super unstable and never works. And it was down up until 6 seconds before the lights went out for the formation lap. I tell you what, mate, it's totally worthwhile for the archive. It's a really good place for watching old races, plus they've got some cool documentaries on there now, and paddock passes on there, and like Will Buxton's got a whole bunch of shows on there that are all quite good. However, for live race coverage, it's pretty fucking abysmal, to be honest. I mean, I still use it because it's nice to have F1 coverage in Germany that's in English and not just 99% adverts. Because German coverage is fucking dire. The commentators always sound really, really bored because they don't care, and there's adverts every, I don't know, 3 minutes or so. It's fucking nuts. And even when it's not an advert break, yeah, you get the same commentary as Sky Sports. So it's Crofty and Brundle. Ninth and 10th. That's an encouraging start. I know most people haven't set a lap time yet, so I'm not sure that will stick. It must have been a long day, because you know what I was thinking just then? I was thinking, those team shirts are quite nice. I should really pick one up. And then I realised it's for a fictional team that doesn't exist, and I can't go out and buy that shirt. Right. Let's see what's really going on. Okay. First of all, we're nowhere near each other in terms of pace, really. And we're only faster than Giovinazzi.
Our best lap so far is a 1:14.
Sometimes I watch it on multiple displays. But generally, it's also fine because I can watch it on my phone when I'm on vacation. Or I can, tablet, laptop, whatever. Generally, I Chromecast it to the TV and then have live timing on the side. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to have to do faster than that. I'm wondering how much of this, though, is the badly worn power unit giving me a bit of a deficit. That said, it would be nice to not make it into Q3 for once, and I never thought I'd ever say that, but it just feels like I'm... Like, this feels like this is where the cars should be. 17th, 18th, 19th, around there.
20.8 kilometers per hour.
Well, let's see if we can at least get into Q2. And then I have a penalty to take in Spain for a new ICE. And I may just start from the back on hard tyres with that penalty. Get a bit tactical up in here. What I like about also running your own team is that there's no arbitrary target that you have to hit. There are some nice corners to it. It feels... Beetlejuice said it best on the last stream, actually. It's a hot lapping track. It's fun for a quali lap, but for actual racing... I mean, the bank thing is kind of cool, but yeah... It feels like it's going to be very, very dangerous. Like, if you crash on a fast bank section, I don't imagine it's going to end well. I love a good crash, me, as long as no one's injured. That's my caveat. I saw Ratzenberger and Senna die, and that was enough for me. That's enough death, thank you. Oh, and Jules Bianchi as well. His was actually the nastiest accident I've ever seen, aside from the one that sadly killed Antoine Hubert. It goes to show, really, that it's never far away, is it? Max Verstappen on pole. I wonder if Codemasters put that in on purpose. So, Jordan didn't get out of 19th position, but he has out-qualified both Williams and one of the Alfa Romeos, so that's about as good as he's been this season. I can't say I'm feeling the extra pace that he's supposed to have. Yeah, he must have some kind of home race bonus or something. Then again, it's only Q1, so I'm guessing usually the Mercedes come back in Q3 and whip everyone's bottom. Alrighty then. I'm I'm going to have to allow time to jog on again and let the track rubber in, because I only get one shot here, because there's no way we have the pace to get through on the mediums. And it may be touch and go to get through on the softs, to be honest. There are some very nice touches in this game for the eagle-eyed. Yeah, I can see the whole swathe of orange. It's nice to think they're McLaren fans, isn't it? Do you guys reckon Esteban Ocon will find his feet again, or do you think this is kind of a doomed stint? I mean, it's always a difficult question to answer, right? Because there has been a tendency throughout history for even young drivers, if they miss a season or two, they never really recover from it. Pascal Wehrlein is another recent example. Romain Grosjean is the exception that proves the rule, and even then, he's still being unbearably French and crashing into everything. So it's not even a guarantee that his career could be counted as a success. But I mean, I did rate Ocon. I still think he had a lot of development work to do, but you know, that's typical of any sort of young rookie driver. But you know, he didn't disgrace himself up against Perez. He just got a bit too bold. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a definite danger pairing him with Alonso. That Alonso just sucks all the oxygen out of the team. Well, this definitely isn't going to be my best lap. 11th. I know exactly where I lost the time as well. I know exactly where I lost it. But that's fine, that gives me free tyre choice. So I'm quite happy with that. I'll take free tyre choice. And I'll go long on the first stint and hopefully finish on the soft tyres and maybe sneak some points.
Is a 1 minute 13.2.
Let's see who's out. Sainz, Norris, Stroll, and now nobody. Yeah, 11th. But you know, I wasn't far off Norris. Alonso for the Triple Crown in 1 year. I don't know. Oh look, Max Verstappen on pole again. And we have out-qualified Stroll, Raikkonen, Kvyat, Ocon and Grosjean, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to start on the medium tyre. And I'm going to have a very slow first stint and struggle to keep everyone behind me. But, yeah, interested. Do you know, I don't think Alonso will actually win Indy. I don't think he can do it. And I think part of the problem is that he refuses to do a full season in the car. And I think he was hoping for what happened with endurance racing, that his name would open a door with a highly competitive team with a race-winning capable car, and that he could do it. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. I mean, it's not me deriding his talents or anything, Beetlejuice. It's just there's a lot that has to go right, and it's hard to do when his reputation's taken the beating it has over the last few years. Plus, there's sort of a wishy-washy lack of commitment when you say, "Well, I only want to run Indy 500. I won't do anything else." For whichever team puts me up. Yeah, It's tough, but my gut says he won't do it. He'll have to retire with what he's got. Because, I mean, even if Renault finds some kind of magic formula, I kind of don't see them... I don't see them stepping up as a championship contender immediately in 2022.
What do you think of this one?
I think that's an excellent one. Thanks for asking. Now Dakar, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him tackle Dakar or Extreme E. I think he's obviously looked at Formula E and decided it's not for him, and fair enough. But I mean, he would provide some star power to the series. I think that's pretty clear. Oh wow. Yeah, everything's looking pretty beat up. Still, we'll swap it for Spain. Do you know, I mean, I've actually never sat down and watched any coverage of Dakar, but I imagine I would freaking love it.
It was 35 years ago that the late great Niki Lauda took his 25th and final Grand Prix win here at Zandvoort. He came from 10th on the grid to beat his McLaren teammate Alain Prost by just 0.2 of a second. Well, Zandvoort is a very different circuit today, of course, but still one with an incredible legacy. And we're going to add to that. Welcome along to the 2020 Dutch Grand Prix. 4 lefts and 10 rights make up the 14 corners of the narrow and demanding Zandvoort circuit, with plenty of peaks and valleys over the course of a 2.6-mile lap, which will demand absolute concentration from our drivers here today. Alongside me to discuss all the action today is Anthony Davidson. Thanks for joining us, Anthony. Tell me, you were down in the pit lane earlier. How do you think the track conditions are today?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race.
I would love to see him come back as a team owner. I had a really interesting conversation with a new fan of the sport actually not too long ago. He was complaining that all the teams are in Europe, so how's it a world championship? And all the teams, most of them are in Britain. And I had to explain the history of the sport. And I said, well, what you've got to remember is, first of all, this reflects how Formula One developed. You know, it was on the old airfields, particularly in Britain, where racing really took off after the war. But also it's super specialised engineering, and you tend to co-locate with all your suppliers because it saves time, money, bringing components that you need. And it just so happens, you know, X-Track, Cosworth, Brown, all kinds of big engineering companies that supply people in F1. They're all located in Motorsport Valley, so it makes sense to have your factory there as well. But I think we're in a globalised world now, and it should, over time, become a bit more feasible to have teams elsewhere. And I was interested at the prospect of a Spanish F1 team, but they never had stable backing and ownership. But if Alonso would ever wish to put his money where his mouth is, presumably after a budget cap, yeah, I'd be down with that. I would be down with that. I mean, to be honest though, all I really want for Christmas is a 24-car grid. Edit strategy on the mediums, please. Yeah, that's my plan. Yeah, I keep hearing the name Panthera bandied around, but I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about it. And what's made me really sceptical is ever since, you know, we had Forza Rossa, that Romanian team that never fucking materialised, and USF1, which looked legitimate up until very close to the start of the season they were supposed to enter on. Panthera I'm still a bit sceptical of. I like the idea of an Asian F1 team. Oh, I've got an engine warning light. Oh, this is scary brown trousers time. Let's try that again. Yes, I believe it is. I don't know if that's good for the integrity of the Constructors' Championship, but yes, it is allowed. It's just historically, it never really worked. Though Haas somehow managed to make it work, so all credit to them. But when HRT did it, yes, thank you. That's what I need to do, really.
Position on lap 1, that's not great, but it's not terrible. Stay focused.
I'm trying, but my car's falling to bits, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, you can sort of contract someone like Dallara to build your chassis and then, you know, buy a gearbox and engine off the shelf. But, you know, historically it never worked. Haas bucked the trend in their first season or two, but what you're seeing now and last season is the fact that even if you have the right parts, it doesn't mean you understand how they work together. And the fact that they're still having such ridiculous brake issues this far into their tenure in the sport worries me. No, they don't. You're right. That's the problem that they have, because even when it's working, they're not entirely sure why. I'm still holding out hopes for points because I am on the slower tyre than the cars around me. Yeah, I mean, there was talk, if you remember, about Haas being co-branded with Maserati, but that died pretty quickly. And Sauber are once again Ferrari's very best friends, which has historically been good for them. This year's car doesn't look so great, but like the stability that's been brought back into the team since the Alfa Romeo deal, and the way the car began to perform really quite well at the start of last year at least, shows what that team's capable of and how beneficial that sort of symbiotic relationship with Ferrari that they've had historically has helped them. But Haas is in this strange sort of no man's land. It reminds me a little bit of like a Tony Fernandez style vanity project, and the way Gene Haas was talking prior to entering Formula One, I remember saying to Simon that he sounds like a person who doesn't know what Formula One really is. And I think one thing the sport has had enough of is vain businessmen who want to throw some money at a team once and then have it win carrying their name and not really have to do anything.
We'll need to lower our ERS deployment mode. Gap to teammate behind is 5.1 seconds.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't seem particularly well equipped for the Piranha Club, did he? Although I have to say, F1 seems a bit less cutthroat these days than it did in the 90s and 2000s, but I mean, it's still pretty ruthless. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You know, he came from a background in NASCAR, right? And it's a totally different discipline. It's not really comparable engineering. And no, it's not that Haas doesn't have some talented guys behind it, because they do. It's just that's not really enough. But, you know, to be honest, it seems pretty clear his patience is done. The fact that he set them the target of turning a profit this year, that just cripples the team competitively. And we might get another season out of them because the regulation change has been delayed, so this year's car can be used next year. I don't know what the team's overheads are, but basically what he's saying is, if we can get through the season without me losing any money, then we can race next season. But I don't think he'll foot the bill of developing a new car for the new rules. I just don't see it at all. And I think the drivers are already aware of this because both of them have been talking about their options elsewhere, with Grosjean saying that he'd quite like to go to Renault, please and thank you, and Magnussen saying that he was looking outside of Haas for the future. Unfortunately, I think Haas has done a bit of damage to Kevin Magnussen's career, and I still rate him quite highly. Yeah, exactly. That's what you'd think, right?
Showing small signs of wear, power output will be down.
If he was serious about staying in the sport, they would be developing this car, but he's not. It's now a marketing exercise for his automation company. So try not to lose any money this year, run another year at the back of the grid, but still have Haas branded F1 cars to stick on posters and use to sell machinery, and then pull out. But, you know, this was... it's a burden being right all the time, but this was my prediction all along, that this exact thing would happen. I actually thought it would happen sooner, but Haas had a really great first season that I never saw coming, and that kind of lulled them into this false sense of security a little bit. And then my prediction was always going to be that Dallara would build a car that struggles. Haas wouldn't understand the car, even if they had a hand in designing it. Yeah, there's no sponsors on the car, but I mean, that's not surprising really, because Gunther Steiner makes for really entertaining television, but you may not want your brand associated with someone quite so bad-tempered and foul-mouthed when it's clearly in the public eye. Plus, Grosjean keeps crashing, and Kevin Magnussen's got a bit of a violent temper himself. Yeah, except they never paid, did they?
Time to the car behind.
I'm really feeling this engine wear. It's only ERS that's keeping me ahead of Raikkonen at this point. Yeah, why not? Why not? I bet we could get if you're wearing a nice enough suit and you can afford a bottle of champagne in a restaurant somewhere. I bet we could get our brand name on an F1 car for at least 5 races. I mean, because Haas said, you know, they did their due diligence on Rich Energy, but their listing at Companies House showed they had 500 quid in the bank. That said, they clearly do have some money because they have produced cans. I've had a crate of their cans. It's unremarkable as a product, but it does exist. I did actually think the branding was very nicely done, the black and gold. I did think that was a good look, and I could see what they were going for. But William Story is a terrible CEO to have as someone in charge and as a spokesman for the brand. And you know, they must have money somewhere because they sponsor some other racing drivers, and they sponsor, I think, the women's football team for West Ham United. And you know, those sponsorship bills have been paid apparently, so some investors do have some money, but the Royal, it is actually a very good name. Ideally, what it should be for is a lubricating oil for electric vehicles that doesn't require any petrochemicals, and then the name is like totally fitting. If only we can harness the power of almonds somehow to build a motorsport grade lubricant. Exactly, the branding writes itself, guys. The branding writes itself. Right, the hard stint is over now. I've been on the slower tyre. I'll pit this lap. I didn't gain as much places from the other drivers pitting as I'd hoped for. And the fact is I'm not going longer than some people are on the soft tyre, but that's the price we pay for driving 25% races. But I am enjoying it. I think it's a good length for us having a bit of a natter. I didn't see any rain on the weather forecast.
The car ahead is coming to fit the mediums. Car ahead.
I will fix the auto mod, mate. I will fix it. I will do it between rounds. I wasn't sure what to set it at, so I left it default, but maybe I should get rid of it altogether, because you guys are quality and the people who watch my YouTube videos are all very nice, so I don't expect much drama.
Box, we're coming in this lap.
I do like those Amazon graphics. Tell you when your pit window's open. I think it's cool. Almost made the mistake there of trying to race Bottas, and that would have been an error. Verstappen's on the hard compound tyre. That's a surprising call. It is, isn't it? Well, that won't stand, Beetlejuice. We have to be able to have some Gunter Steiner sometimes, or else the mod is just not working correctly.
Leclerc's in first place.
Leclerc is in first place. Has he pitted, though? I don't think he has. I'm changing my mind about this circuit as the laps go on. Das is not in the game, which doesn't surprise me, to be honest, because it's probably a bit of a pain in the arse to map to a controller, and
Jordan is coming in for his stop. Exit now.
oh, we're double boxing.
Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now.
And it's banned next year anyway, so any work they did would be kind of rendered a bit moot. The car feels so much better on these tyres. It really does, but there's a
Green flag.
big gap now between me and Perez, so I think points are not going to happen at this Grand Prix. It's a very short pit lane, isn't it? K-Mag's out of the race. That'll help Jordan, hopefully. So you know what, maybe I was mistaken. Let's turn what's left of the power unit up and try not to explode it at the same time. That's in a road car. That kind of reminds me of the sort of innovations that you used to get in cars. When I was a kid, my dad was a big Saab man, and I liked Saabs as well until they went under. But his Saab 9000, something went badly wrong with it and it had to be scrapped, and he needed a car for a few months at least while he figured out what he was going to do, and he bought an old Citroen. I think it was an old Citroen ZX, and they had the hydro pneumatic suspension, so like the back wheel was sort of covered by the bodywork, but you could raise and lower it. And I never figured out why you would want that functionality. Presumably it was in case like you overloaded the boot or something, but still, Dast feels kind of like that if you put it on a road car. I don't know why you'd want it, but it'd be something that's kind of cool, like you show your mates in the pub. Yeah, exactly. I never understood what those were for either.
0.8 seconds.
Is it so the light bulbs could see out? We'll never know. Exactly, yeah.
There's 5 laps of fuel remaining.
I don't know how this happened, but I think we might be about to have a race on our hands. I've got an engine warning for general wear that's in orange. I don't think we're at imminent risk of a failure, although we will be on the ICE once it gets over 75%. But I don't know if it actually fails or if you just start to get slower and slower. But yeah, the engine needs to be replaced, or at least large amounts of it do. The control electronics are still okay. And the energy store is fine, but everything else is at the end of its natural life. That's the power of dreams for you, everybody. Right, let's spend some of this battery.
A danger point with the wear on the MGU-H. Overheating the engine will exacerbate the issue, so keep the temps under control.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff, but no, because I'm about to have a race with a Mexican, and that's not a time for cool heads to prevail, I'm afraid, because there's a point on offer, and I want it. Oh, we got in the Durs. Yeah, you did notice far more earlier than Jeff. And unlike Jeff, neither you nor Beetlejuice has attempted to kill me by advising me to move onto slick tyres in heavy rain, which Jeff's done numerous times. I don't know, but it looks to me like that McLaren is going very slowly, and it's holding these guys up and bringing them into my evil clutches. Jeff doesn't even know what rain is. Never heard of it, mate. What's rain?
There's 3 laps of fuel remaining.
I used to love as well in the old versions of this game. I'd be racing my teammate and trying to figure out when their pit stop was, because I used to try and do pro career, so you didn't have any of the graphics to read from. And so I radio Jeff and say, you know what, tell me about the car in front. And he'd say, we don't know what tyres they're on, we don't know what the strategy is. And it's like, ask the guy next to you. We're on the same team. But Jeff just holds a grudge against me. It is a very hard circuit to pass at. That's my feeling too. And I can speak with limited authority on this now, having now done a few laps trying to find a place to overtake someone.
The turbocharger is on its last legs. Let's try to keep mileage on it to a minimum.
That's another engine warning coming up in the same Grand Prix. What I loved as well about that's typical Jack, isn't it? The turbocharger's on its last legs. Try and keep the mileage down. What do you want me to do? Just pit? Just give up? Unfortunately, while I think I did have the pace when I still had some ERS battery and didn't have to run the engine in lean mode, I don't think I have the pace to get past these guys now. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. They very well may be having the same problem with their power unit or gearbox, slowing them down. You could very well be right. Damn, if I hadn't have run on the curb there, that was a really good run. I had a good chance of catching them. I've got no battery left though. I've got no legs.
This is your final lap of the race.
It's fun though. I'm having a lot of fun.
There's only 1 lap of fuel remaining.
Come on. Can't stay in overtake mode, and they're faster than me through this section of the track. I didn't bin it, mate, and I didn't actually run into the back of Perez, which I thought was about to happen. Yeah, can't do it. If I had a newer engine, possibly, but I ran out of fuel at the line as well. Did you see that?
Take care of the car on the way in.
Oh, it was close. If I'd had just a minute amount more power. Yeah, but see, that's exactly the thing, right? I mean, I lost out there, but I'm smiling because I had a lot of fun racing those guys then. And it was so tantalising because passing one car could easily have become 2 if I'd done it in the right place. So it felt like there was some real points on offer. The strategy call turned out to be a smart one though, because there's no way I would have been able to do that if I'd been on the same tyres as them. The little car just had no more to give. Oh, and Max didn't win. That's actually a wee bit of a surprise. Well, no points for either of us in the team at this Grand Prix, but not too shabby.
Let's take a look at the driver's standings. Despite the best efforts of our championship leader, that lead has taken a bit of a knock today. Now, let's discuss.
And my pace was all right actually. Best lap of a 1:14.581. So, yeah, that looks about right. Pace comparable to Carlos Sainz, Alexander Albon, which is what we'd normally expect to see.
Be sure to join myself and Ant for
Let's
more
take a look at the
exciting
standings. We've
Formula One
lost
action
2
soon.
places, but we're still holding on to 6th in the constructors. Although it's getting tight with Racing Point because they gained more points. I'd like to see a Niki Lauda themed trophy. Actually, I think that would be a very nice touch. But I suspect Beetlejuice is correct. It'll just be a slowly revolving Max Verstappen statue made out of gold. And occasionally it will bend at the waist and smell its own farts. That's what it will be. Beautifully engineered.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret?
Pump up the team so we get the sponsors.
Clean and fast today, was it?
Yep, none of us wants to be the person to back down. I completely agree with that.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Kicking the crap out of the Italian. And a nice bit of income there. I just realised 11th was just inside the top 12, which is what we needed. And again, 0 damage deductions. And we have 3.14 million in the bank. That means factory upgrade time. Oh, it's getting exciting now. Things are really happening. Apparently not. Apparently not, mate. Well, yeah, there's the way it would normally manifest, which is the bill I get for all the front wings I lose. It is a handsome car, that. I do like it. Okay. Where do we invest? Aerodynamics, powertrain, durability, marketing. Any thoughts, anyone? Fitness centre, that's actually quite a good idea. I'm out of shape on all accounts, mate. Since the lockdown, my curry intake has gone up a lot, and my curry intake is high anyway. And I'm drinking a lot of beer again. Fitness centre improves second driver's racecraft and awareness. Or we can get an analysis suite. Actually, we can afford both. Someone has to make that joke. Tell you what, why don't we buy both? We've been on a successful run. Let's just do that. Okay, I want a new ICE. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a lot of penalties here. How's my gearbox as well? Oh, gearbox is actually alright. I'm going to start having trouble at the next race, but I can handle that. And then I get a new gearbox for Monaco. Not close to another sponsor yet, but that's fine. Spent a lot of money, but you've got to speculate to accumulate. In terms of R&D, we've spent our points. Haas have outdeveloped us. Oh, are we free from China in 7 days already? Where was that? Oh, it's my German sponsor. That runs out. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I forgive you. We're stuck with the China money for the whole season, but that's okay. I actually think the logo works on the car, to be honest. Okay. What's going to happen now is I'm going to take a bathroom break. I need to make a phone call. I'll be gone maybe half an hour maximum, and then I'll jump back on. I think it's good to take breaks every few hours or so, just so stretch my legs, everyone can use the bathroom or whatever. Guys, thank you for spending your evenings with me. I'm pathetically grateful, truly pathetically grateful. I will be back 20-30 minutes, I reckon. Have yourselves a good one.